Alrighty, folks, with the song just about ending here, we're going to take it over to Lijiang Night Market, or in this case, Lijiang Day Market, for another match of RM Overwatch here. We have the Rat Milker squad over here in Open Division. Going to be facing off against the Vancouver Vikings. Tonight's starting lineup on your support duo of Locke Zover. Your DPS, of course, being Fish, Zachary, and Conroos leading the charge as the tank. We're going to go over to Conroos POV as both teams are going to get there. For Vancouver Vikings, we have Eric here, or Archik. I don't know how to say that tank's name. Eclipse, Exiled Kai, Bear Goober, and Jay. Talking about which the tank for the Vancouver Vikings already throwing Zachary off the edge. So Rat Milker's down one. Fish does find a beautiful pickoff onto the Kiriko though on the back line. Does get it, and Zilver finding Goober here. So Rat Milkers, while going down first, Connors gets a beautiful bop off by that onto Jay of the Vancouver Vikings, and they do get the first point flip. So Rat Milkers are going to be on the board here first. I'm going to go over to Conroe's POV as he's handling three men, basically the entirety of the back line of the Vancouver Vikings here. It's 73% on his ultimate. He has built that in crazy fast. And now you see the punish coming up from the ball here, trapped in a small room, and the rest of his team could not get there because of this poke damage by Fish. Don't know which. The rest of the Vancouver Vikings want to step forward on this point. Rat Milker's up 30% and counting, but Fish Lock taking them out. Converse, of course, going to be the first one here with this Panopticon, trying to punish this Kiriko. Does get it, however, the support line is going to be coming up on the same respawn wave, and you see a switch off from the Cassidy onto the Emery here. Slam coming in to the ball, however, you got to ask, is that a bit too early, as now Bear Goober is finally into this fight. You do see the Genji coming out here, but so far nothing has been found. Fish with enough damage onto the tank does find it, so Vancouver Vikings without the tank. Now it's going to be Fish versus Exiled Kai here. Looks like both of them are going to kite away. As you see, this map kind of flipped here for what I believe is going to be the first time that this might be the first full team fight that someone isn't either staggered on or going. You see Rats taking head in here. Here comes the minefields, though. Exiled Kai does find Fish, who did have the ultimate on board here. We're going to go over to Connor's POV as he has the Pentacon. Zover throws the Considering Rush, however, dies. So does Luck. It is just Conroos left on this point. He is the dominant. He can just kind of sustain here for a while, but the flip did come in. It is 5% for the Vancouver Vikings here. Now 2v2. Fish back on that Pharah. However, enough damage has come through already, so Vancouver Vikings need a touch for that. A lot of ultimates are being popped on the board. We have the Consuming Rush, we have the Beat here, good for 4. Panopticon also thrown out. Locks over finding it. Here comes the Blade over from Exiled Kai. Trying to get that POV as he finds one. He's looking for a 2. It is a 3v1 for Exiled Kai. Will he find any more? He does not. And it looks like Rat Milkers are going to be taking this round 100-13. An easy round for Rat Milkers. And you got to ask a question here. Vancouver Vikings. Was that the best composition you could really cook up in the lab? Because it looked tragic. Talking about looks, though, I forgot to even mention these bands coming up here. I do have the Symmetra band and the Juno band here. Of course, I don't know what team really banned anything, because Faceit still does not tell you what team banned what. I know you could probably go from who picked what map, but again, they also do not tell you who picked what map. Gotta love that replay viewer. But looks like we're going to have a bit of a switch up here. The tank going on to that Dominator, trying to get that mirror matchup, but the support line is something that we haven't seen. You see Dark Eclipse, Exiled Kai, Dark Eclipse and Jay going over to an Ana and a Mitsuki. I I don't like this composition, I'm going to be honest. This Ana looks like maybe it's going to be over here trying to farm up this nano for this Genji. But with this Dominus Shield, you're really not going to get a lot of value here, as already we see the tank for the Vikings go down asleep onto Conru, so it's going to relieve some pressure, but you've already lost 3 players. You're just kind of staggering yourself, and that's exactly what happens. But yeah, like I said, this Ana with that shield from the Dominant, that's going to be playing such a crucial part of this composition for the Ratmokers. It's a bit rough. Same thing with the Mitsuki, you know, you really want to build up that via your sides, because it does get your healing up. But we do see a switch coming out for this composition, something that looked a bit better. We have the Ramatra here, but maybe his team a little too far. Him a little too far forward, and his team hasn't got the message to rotate here. As the form's already popped out, the nade has to be used defensively here, and so an early form means if Rats really wanted to go on to this, they could. So now we see another beautiful shield by Conru's, cutting off that support healing and then isolating it for 3. Conru's popping off on that. We're going to go over to the Fish's POV. Actually, let's get some support love here going for Zover, as they do have the Kitsune Rush. Right now it's 65% in favor of the Ratmokers. Vikings have yet to touch this point. This is going to be a big fight. Of course, Fish does have that barrage. Zover having that Kitsune Rush. Here comes the... Kitsune Sanctuary up, but too late, I mean. Already burned through the tank. Fish getting 2. Conrad is getting it. You see the Goober popping his living weapon systems here, trying to find 2, trying to find anything. Fish does not get it. We're going to go over to Conrad as the touch needs to come in. The ball is out for the Vancouver Vikings. Here it comes with a boot. Conrad prevents it, and that's going to be all she wrote for that. As no one gets the touch to force overtime, Ratmokers take a convincing 2-0 here on Li Zhang, and of course that means they win the map. We're going to be right back after these few messages here. Stick around, as we're just getting into it. Alrighty folks, with that being the intermission, we're going to head over to Saravasa. Of course, Ratmokers leading this series 1-0. We have current bans being the Wrecking Ball and Lucio. I think the Ratmokers banning the Wrecking Ball, trying to see if Vikings have any other, composition here. We actually do see something we haven't seen for the Rats in a second. We do have a Wu Yang, so I'm going to go over to the Wu Yang POV, see how Locke performs on it. But yeah, a ball ban out for the Rats and a Lucio ban for the Vancouver Vikings. You gotta wonder, if you don't have a Lucio, you probably have a Juno, right? That character is dumb easy to do. But not having a speed character here, real big question mark. You see Connor's on this Diva, but more meta pick. But you also have the Sigma. Ratmoker's not getting too great space control here, so the flip is going to go over to the Vancouver Vikings, and Connor's already out of his mech here. Zachary does find a support, though, alongside Fish, though, dying, so you have a baby Diva, not really much of a tank. Locke tries to take a cheeky angle, gets shut down. Here comes baby Diva. Connor is trying to pistol whip the Wu Yang, but that's all she wrote for the Ratmoker's attack. Kind of falling flat there, so Vikings do show some fangs here. Zachary going to try to get out of position. We're going to go over to, actually, the Vikings Sigma here, as he performed great to shut down the angles here, and is at 66% towards alt. Zachary, of course, with the living weapon, so we're actually going to go closer to that. You see this angle they're taking here? Going to try to 1v1 this cast. Ooh, gets shot down by the Goober. Put some respect on that. Connor is trying to engage onto it, trying to finish off with Zach. Could not. It is 90% for the Vikings. Ratmokers step forward. High noon out for Goober. Connor is trying to put himself in a position where he does not get it. You see this ring around the rosy. He does not find anything, though. Zover does find the Eclipse, though. Connors takes out. Oh, the bubble doesn't come out for Jay. The Vikings without the Russian current go down. So right now it is Zachary, Luck, and Zover versus Kaya and their tank. Now that respawns back, the Cassidy is back. It is Zover and Fish versus the world. Zover is going to step forward to keep this overtime running, but the respawners are coming back out here. Eclipse out. Rat Milkers leave the point. And it looks like we have a game on our hands, folk, as the Vikings have taken the first point here, and we're going over to Ruins. It's 0-100. It looks like we're going to have Connors switching off the Diva, not finding too much value here on it. It's taking a few seconds, and we're back onto the Domina. Connor's was quite dominant on this. We're going to go over to Zach here with that living weapon. Already taking these high ground here. Ooh, good burn through the Reaper. Having to force Wraith early, that's going to be quite tragic. And you see the rest of the team come here. Rushing Water is good. It's onto the Tracer here. Good for 3 here. An Orbital used in counter, and with the Gravitational Flux found with a Death Blossom. The backline for the Rats have been found out. Connor's going down as well. He actually switched off of the Domina onto the Ramatra here. Well, Rat Milker's kind of falling short on this last team fights, but that was a large ult bank just dropped by Vikings. So I'm going to go back to Zote. I'm going to go back to Zachary, as since there's no defensive ults here, he can absolutely pop his ultimate here. Fish, however, found early in this fight a lot of damage. Zachary needs any help he can get. Anything would save Zachary's life. One more shot going through. A lot of damage onto the Sigma of the Vikings, however, not found. Here comes the Kitsune Rush. Rat Milker's looking to turn this around. Zachary still has not found the value he needed here on his list. And of course, we go over to him whiffing every single shot. Luck, dangerously low, probably out of resource. It is just up to Zover to keep his team alive right now. Goober, of course, building up to it. You see the Reaper teleporting in. Hinder is out. Zachary versus Goober. We've seen this matchup before, and he does win it. Connors finds the Brigitte as well, and so Rat Milkers are going to plant their flag over this point. But at 90%, you got to wonder, did it take them too long here, as they're going to have to go practically flawless in these next team fights as they're slowly building back up here. I'm going to go over to Conru's POV, as he is 91 towards Rally. However, towards Annihilation, my bad. He's looking over at Jay with 87, so they could build Rally this fight. Goober, of course, has the High Noon and Death Blossom coming up. Of course, actually, across the board, you could see if this fight goes long enough, they're switching it. However, Zachary picking that Cassidy up. I don't think they're going to pursue it anymore. Connors punching through the Reaper, getting the break and the Sig and the Reaper here. It looks like they're going to try to stagger Eclipse here, and they do. So that's an orbital right there, not going to have. Fish, though, almost going down there. So Rat Milkers have played this quite well here. However, ult banks here in favor of the Vikings. They need to come up big with these ultimates. The Reaper does get the touch, however, every single ability used. If the Rats focus down it, they do. Connor is in a difficult situation, pops the Annihilation, but has to fight through a rally and break. Russian Current is out here with 2 shields facing him. He's not going to find any value here. The point keeps ticking down. The supports for the Vikings are going to be the touch here. Locke finds not 1, but 2. Flux out for the Vikings. They're still investing ultimates, and they still think it's winnable. Zachary goes down. The tank goes down for the Vikings. And a huge expenditure for what, frankly, was not worth it. Going down. It's now 1-1 in Saravasa here, folks. And like I said, huge ultimate usage here. You use the Gravitone Flux, you use the Orbital, you use the Rally, you use the High Noon. I didn't know where the High Noon was used. So that's 4 ultimates. The only ultimate they have on the side of the Vikings is this Reaper ult, and that's quite frankly going to be difficult to get value of here. You see Fish, of course, 1v2ing. The flashbang's already out, so if he wants, he can just throw this flash ball through the door and just end it now. But yeah, they have the Pulse. They have the Living Weapon, and they have the Kitsune Rush. Rats are going to get control at this point first. The flash already out. Fish is still on his cheeky angle. The rest of the Rats are going to take forward. Here comes Zachary with the weapon, with the help of Fish taking that Cassidy all the way down. Does find the picks off here. Locke cleaning up the rest of these kills. Zachary only having to use one ultimate here and pretty much collapse the entirety of the Vikings. Rats still have an ult bank though. But talking of which, I didn't mention this. The Vikings did switch over to this Queen. However, with Zover, and we had seen Zover struggle before with this in scrims, we're hoping he has the rotation of that Suzu out. Brig needs help. Pulse Bomb's out. Locke found out with a beautiful pull. However, a support for a support comes out. Here comes the Death Blossom, trying to put pressure onto Converse. Zover gone. And so is the rest of the support lineup for the Rats. Converse at 1 HP and a Dream. Zachary's the last left. It's Zachary, Fish versus Kai and the Juno. However, Juno is trying to get out. They take it down. They focus fire onto Zachary. Zachary goes down. So it is now Fish. The respawners for the Rat Milkers are back on the side. Here comes the Russian Current. Trying to find any value onto it. Blows up in the Juno's face. Rally popped by the Vikings here. They cannot handle Fish. Fish is going insane here on these angles. I've already built another Pulse Bomb out. Finding these kills. Pulse Bomb going wide. However, Fish has done enough to secure the point for the Rats. And now they're up 2-1. It is map point here on Saravasa. It looks like the rest of the team is getting regrouped for Vikings. However, Locke and Zachary taking some angles here. Really want to see if they can find another kill. Beautiful nade and beautiful try-shot of the Wu Yang bubbles here. However, fight has already started in this small room. We're going to go over to Connors, as he does have this Annihilation. On the opposite side, they do have the Orbital Ray from the Juno. And here it comes. This Queen Rampage can come out. Talking about Queen's Annihilation. Connor's Annihilation is out. Getting a lot of value. The ticking damage you can see constantly ticking. Needs some support though. His backline is pushed forward. Somehow Goober goes off the edge. An interesting Rampage comes out. However, Connors and the rest of the support line shutting that down before too much value can be given up here. While the Vikings do get the point flip, initially only get it at 15% and had to use 2 ultimates here to Converse's 1. So again, Rats right now taking this ult bank into this next fight. It is now 25%, and you see Fish, cheeky little Fish, hasn't stuck a Pulse Bomb just yet in this series. Not going to do it at this, but a lot of damage thrown on to Goober. I don't know what happened to that Malga. Maybe step forward. They've had a tendency to overextend here. And now the rest of the Rats are going to be the infestation they're looking for. And they're going to find the targets they need. As the rest of the Vikings have been sent packing back into their spawn. Rats, again, they have this Russian Current. They have the Kitsune Rush. Zachary with the living weapon, and you know, I'm gonna go over to the Zachary POV as he's taking one hell of an angle. Here comes the living weapon off the opposite side of the Vikings. Zachary finds the tries to get the better of it, tries to style on it, but the damage done is enough here. Connors going rushing forward, finds the Juno, finds the Cassidy, and the Malga just runs away from the point. So Rats are going to take this Saravasa quite easy, and now we're in match point for the series. It's 2-0 for Rats, and we're going to be setting up the next scene, so we'll be right back. Alrighty, folks, we'll be grooving into the next map here. Going to Esperanza for the final map of this series. Might be the final map of this series. My bad, I misspoke. As we are on match point here, Rat Milkers versus the Vancouver Vikings. That's, of course, 2-0, and I forgot to do the bans. Bans are as followed. You have the Ana coming out, and the Cassidy on the opposite side. Now, looking at these two team compositions, it's not a question of why the Ana got banned. You had the Roadhog on the opposite side by the, what was it, the Hitscan player, actually. You had the Roadhog So let's give that a peep on the opposite side. You don't see Roadhogs too often, however, Zover already finding a good pick onto what was the former tank player, now hit scan for the Vikings here. You see all of Ratmilker's convening to burn this hog down. Look how much health has gone down, especially with another teammate down here. It's not looking good for the Goober, however, it does get that support over by the Wu Yang. So Rats are making good progress, but you see how many angles this Roadhog has to contend with, and this is exactly how you deal with a Roadhog. You just maximize the angles on him. It's Roadhog only good if he's facing down one person, but if you're surrounded like he is, and his team not really helping bail him out by taking some of these angles down, he is just getting pressured. This poor Wu Yang on the opposite side needs some help. However, with Fish going down, that's a big pickoff from the Vancouver Vikings. Connor is in trouble. Goes down. That Wu Yang needs to be studied on how much he just bailed that Roadhog out. So many healing resources went down on him, and unfortunately the Rats could not hold on to it. Fish with a beautiful pick, though. This could be the opening for his team. Connor's still down bad. No, not down bad. Connors is still trying to come back. Zachary, living weapon here. Gonna try to throw it into the support line. Locke, getting found on the hook here. And actually, Goober finding 2 pickoffs here. It is just this Wu Yang. Zachary coming up big. Conroe's it. So it is just the tank left for it. I say that as the Soldier 76 is making his way back. That's why we do call him Legs, that ability to run in Overwatch. Crazy. But the rest of the Ratmilkers are pretty much back, except for Zachary. He did take the last fall here. Pretty much still in the mid-fight. Here comes the Soldier 76 and a Kitsune Rush here. A lot of damage going on to Fish, however, able to sustain through it with that Kitsune Rush. They're going to try to stuff them into this doorway. Connor's looking for it. Good with one on the Pentacopticon. Has Genji in the Pentacopticon. Gets stunned, gets hooked, dies. Here comes the Justice and a deflection kill onto Fish. You're not supposed to be shooting into the deflect Fish. But that being said, those 2 ults did get them checkpoints, so they're going to get early spawns, good, closer spawns here. We're going to go actually over to Exiled Kai. Now, what you're looking for here, if you're Kai, is this Lucio. You have to know that Locke is close to this beat, and if you do not pop this blade soon enough, it might just be too early, and dying with it is tragic. Here comes the beat. So there's still opportunity for this blade to do anything. However, this beat pushing the rest of Vancouver Vikings back. Fish finding 2 pickoffs here, making up for shooting that. Is found out, though, quickly. Conroe's going to clean up some other kills. Looking for that Soldier pickoff. Is he going to get it? The rest of his support lines here, they certainly are trying to fish for it. They do get it. Mind the pun. Actually, Zover in interest. Never mind, Zover does get out here. So, point. Coming into the straightaway here, I'm going to go over to the Kai. Like I mentioned, this blade, Ratmilkers doesn't have anything to really answer it for him. Zachary does have this living weapon, and he's going to pop it. The Kitsune out for the side of the Vancouver Vikings. Doesn't get it. 9%. Ooh, he just throws himself into Zachary. So they use the Kitsune Rush of the Vikings for basically nothing. No reason. Zachary only had to use that one ultimate. So Rat's doing pretty good on it. We're going to keep going over to Kai, as this, I think, is going to be the big playmaker if you're the Vancouver Vikings. However, Conroe's does have this Panopticon. Could try to catch Kai, but is backed a little bit. So Rats do give us some point progress here. At 115 meters, you don't think it counts. Ooh, a good grab onto Conroe's here. That Panopticon not going to be there to save their life. Ooh, Fish going down. That's going to have to be a general retreat over there by the Fish. I mean, the Ratmilkers here. I do see my mic is speaking. All right. We're still going to just watch this because there's no way doing some rooftop surfing. But yeah, if I was Kai's teammates, I'd be concerned. He has not popped this. He's had this for quite a few minutes. has not had it. And we have Attack Visor already out once again. The amount of resources this... He pops it. And he's just going to swing it. Okay, Fish does give him an easy thing. But he's just swinging out as the tank. Not the blade you were looking for if you're the Vancouver Vikings. Of course, Rats already do lose one. Hook going wide. I'm going to go over to the Conroe's POV. And do have this Panopticon here. Here comes the Kitsune Rush. That's Rat Milker's go time. However... Ooh, Zachary going down. That whole hog actually doing quite great work here. Preventing them from really using that rush to go forward. And actually, on the back of that, they do find 2 here. So Vikings in the driver's seat. However, with Domina being able to control this space, they really can't push forward. Hog really wants to just kind of slick around and do it. Fish does go down. However, Connor is still very much healthy. Soldier at 1 HP and a Dream. Yeah, as you saw, here comes the living weapon by Zachary. Zachary does go down, however, maybe this is a compositional mishmash. This Domina really likes to control the space, and Hog struggles to do that. You know, the Hog, he wants to slick off into corners, try to find one pick, you know, try to find them small angles, you know. And the rest of the team really, you know, you got that Baptiste, you got that Soldier 76, so... Some interesting comps to say the least if you're a Vancouver Viking. But I just don't see them going too far on this, you know. That Baptiste really doesn't add too much to the conversation on this composition. Maybe an addition to the Soldier 76, but like... Overall, I'm just not impressed by the Vancouver Vikings compositions. On the opposite side, though, Rats, not too original with their composition. We've seen this composition played in both the LBWCS and a lot of divisions. Good isolation coming over here with that shield. Did he get anybody with that? He didn't. A Fish being a bit toxic to a Soldier 76 in the background. Don't know what happened there. Here comes the window, but actually, I was been saying that window's not gonna find too much value, but. You know, if you're going to get hooked on the opposite side of the window and then shot through it, that's a lot of damage here. We're going to go to a Locks POV as the rest of the Rats are going to start falling back. Zachary does get a nice pick-off here onto the Genji. However, with the rest of the team, I don't think it really matters. They're going to get some early respawns. And like I said, that Hawk hates this angles. And what does Rat Milkers have? They have the angles. This high ground is... basically a death trap, and I don't know why Jay engaged onto that without it. Will Locke get this kill, but ooh, it doesn't look like it. So Rats are down 2. So kind of just a free-for-all here. The Soldier 76 finding even more value, going to find 3 on this fight. Conroe, however, does brutalize one person here. Looks like he could... Oh, he almost got the Soldier 76. Conroe has been just borderline electric on it. We're going to go over to Zachary as, you know, ultimates are cool to watch. And Zachary has been electric with his living weapon, always getting 1. You see, waiting for the rest of his team. Beat out. Sights out. Good counter for that. Zover finds the Soldier 76. Says, you do not have me in the sights. Here comes the... Genji swinging in the wind, however, does get Zover on the opposite side. 40 seconds left for this point, but like I've been saying all series, this does not look like a close one. 30 seconds left on the side of the Vancouver Vikings to travel 90 meters here with that pick off on the Fish. That is a good pick, but the Soldier 76 is quite ahead of his team. Does get out. Lock with 1 HP. Look at Conroe's. He's just walking it down. This character was just built for him. He can walk it down, and he finds 3! He finds 3 with this Panopticon. The Soldier 76 just kind of gives up, I guess. Locke finds Jay. So it is just the Hog and Genji. Here comes the Justice. Fish going down. So the Hog does find it in, but like that's going to be all she wrote for this. Rat Milkers take a 3-0 series against the Vancouver Vikings.
And I'm going to say this, folks. This was not a close game in the slightest. This was just rat domination. This was,
quite frankly, some terrible compositions on the side of Vancouver Vikings. Need to go back to the drawing boards on some of these. But that's all she wrote for tonight, folks. Remember, Monday and Wednesdays is our night games, and we'll be casting both Remember Me and Rat Milkers. So pay attention to this week ahead. Monday we'll be doing a Rat Milkers game. Tuesday will be Remember Me, and then we're gonna just repeat that pattern until all games have been covered. If you enjoy this or anything like it, remember to follow Remember Me on Twitter. We're gonna have that on Twitter at Remember Me _Overwatch, capital R, capital M, capital OW. To keep up to date with the latest scores, news, and other things, and also be on the lookout for our pick'ems. That's right, folks. We do have pick'ems here in Remember Me's Discord. So with all that being said, I hope you have a great night, and I will see you all later.